Hey you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back. So in this video, I am working on a scrapbook layout and I'm using Ali Edwards' August Digital Stories by the Month kit. And I am a really big fan of digital kits. I don't typically use them digitally, but I do a very hybrid approach where I'm printing things out and cutting them up and then adding them to a physical scrapbooking page. That is what I much prefer to do than just to have a pure digital page that then I print out flat. So one of the things that I love so much about a digital kit is that you can manipulate files. And if you've seen some of my other videos on here or any of my other layouts on Instagram, you'll notice that I do a lot of playing around with the digital elements. So I want to show you guys, and I'm definitely going to be doing this for any of the digital videos that I do here on out, because I know a lot of you have questions about how I am using the files. So I want to show you how I put my photos in a collage and also how I was able to change those tags. So those tags, I actually changed the colors on that. So I'm going to show you guys that right now. All right, so I've got both files that I'm going to be adjusting here. I've got the tags. This is a 3x4 card, one of the 3x4 cards. And then this learning, which is one of the 4x6 cards. And the one thing that I want to do right offhand is adjust the color. So these are pretty bright and I want to change them so they are more muted. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the layers and I'm going to click on this little lock icon so that I can change this file so that it gives me access to it. Then I'm going to come up to adjustments. If you do not have your adjustments panels open, you can come to Windows and click on adjustments there. And I'm going to go to Hue Saturation. And what I want to do is come over here to the saturation portion, and I just am going to dial it down. And I am going to put mine to be about 57. That actually looks really good. So you can see how much it muted it. I'm going to also do the exact same thing on the other file because I want these pinks to match. They are the same pink. So I'm going to again come to the layers panel, click on the lock to give me access, go to adjustments, go to hue saturation, and then I'm just going to dial this into a -57 and hit return, and you can see that now it is adjusting the colors. And for this file, I'm not going to do anything else with it other than I'm just going to go ahead and print it out and make sure I situate it so that this learning is actually, let me change it here. So the image, I'm going to rotate it counterclockwise. So it's actually going to print out this way, and I'm going to have my photos going like this. So because this is a 4x6, I'll just put it, well, I'll show you. I'll do Control P and I'll show you what it will look like here. I'll just go ahead and move this over in the corner, and then I will end up cutting it out this way, if that makes sense. I end up doing it wrong as I was filming it. I had to print it twice because I wasn't thinking when I was doing it. But you'll see that. Maybe you already have. Okay, so then I'm going to come back to the tags, because the other thing I want to do with the tags, I want to get rid of these numbers because I want to make one more tag, but I don't want to have to, I don't have this exact font. So I'm going to get rid of the numbers. I could add numbers back in with my own font. I don't end up doing that. My intention is to stamp it in my process video, but I actually don't end up doing that either. So I'm not going to have any stickers on there, or excuse me, I'm not going to have any numbers on there. So I'm going to come over to the erase tool, and I'm just going to erase and make sure you're actually on the layer. I'm just going to erase this. You can see that it's actually erasing to the bottom, which is fine because I'm also going to get rid of all of the white on this file as well, because I'm going to make one more tag because I want 5 of them. So now that I've done that, I'm going to come up to this magic wand tool and I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to click on the white in the file, and then I'm going to right click and come to similar. And you can see that all of the white, all of that same color that I clicked on originally is getting selected. So then I'm going to click on delete, and now you can see that it's all been deleted. I'm going to hit Control Command D just to deselect everything. So now I've got these tags that are basically a PNG file with a transparent background. So I can make them any color I want. So the next thing that I'm going to do actually is I'm just going to create a larger file. So I'm going to click on File and then click on New, and I could do a 6x8. That's totally fine. And then maybe I can end up printing everything at the same, oh no, I wouldn't be able to do that. Never mind. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to take this file and I'm actually going to merge it. Control Command E is going to merge what's at the top with the bottom so that I have the desaturation is merged. It's not going to change. And I'm just going to drag this file into this new 6x8 file that I made. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I am wanting to create another tag. Now you can create multiple tags if you want, just FYI, but I just want to do one. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the marquee tool and click on that. And then I'm just going to drag over one of the tags. And then I'm going to right click and I'm going to come down to layer via copy, and it's going to, you can see that it's now created another tag. It's just on top of this one so you can't see it. Come over here to my move tool and I'm just going to move that top tag out of the way. So now I've got two reg tags. Well, I really just want this to be a blue color. So we're going to create that right now. So I'm going to make sure that I'm on the layer with the new tag. Come down here to the FX, so for the effects, and I'm going to come to color overlay, and let me bring over whatever this is, the menu, yeah, the pop-up window, whatever it is. I'm going to click on the color because I don't want it to be black. I want it to be a blue color. So I am going to, let's see. There we go. I'm just going to come up to some of this green. And I think I want it to be maybe like a green blue. I'm just playing around, and I was playing around when I did it also. I'm going to come to the, this should be saturation here. And maybe come back to hue and play around with the hue a little bit. I wanted it to be a little bit more blue. And this is just like me literally playing around. Whoops, I didn't mean to hit enter, but I just changed the saturation to 20. So this is me just kind of playing around, and I actually love that color. I don't know if this is the color I originally chose, but you can see that I was just trying to get the right hue, and then I'm changing the saturation to 20%, and that is what muted it out. Is that saturation right there, because the H is hue, saturation, brightness. That is what that stands for. But if you want to use one of the others to create your color, you can totally do that, but I find that to be the easiest. And I think that it goes along really well with the rest of the colors that I've chosen. So I'm just going to click OK because I like it. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add my font in the middle. So come over here to the type tool, and I'm just going to click on, it looks like it's going the other direction, and I'm not sure why. I'm like, I've never had that happen before. Okay, so I just had the wrong tool selected there. So now I'm just going to write, I can do hard things, which is one of the things that I wrote. I don't think I did periods, and I forgot to. Whoops. And I don't want things to be on its own, so I'm just going to do a hard return on the hard. And then I also want to change the color here, so I'm going to highlight it, come over here to the properties, and it's got the purple. I'm going to go all the way down to black. You can see that it's black by the zeros and all the zeros here, and I'm going to click OK. So now we've got our text black, and now I'm just going to move the text down a little bit because I am anticipating that I'm going to be putting a stamp here, which I actually don't end up doing while I'm recording it because I forget. Maybe I'll go back and do it right now, but my layout has been completed as I'm doing this right now. Okay, so now that I've got one placed where I like it, I'm going to Alt and I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to slide this over, and I'm going to do the same for this as well. And I'm going to do it for all of them because I can easily then hit the type tool again, go in and write out. I think I did one of them, God is in the details, so I'll do that one. And again, I don't want details to be alone, so I'm going to do a hard return on the. So now let's just come out of that to, I'm going to come down actually to layer 1 so I can see how that looks. I'll probably bring that down a little bit. Why are there so many I can do? Oh, okay. Make sure I'm on the layer. God is in the details. And I'm going to just bring it down a little bit. And if I wanted to make sure that it was exactly center, oh, no, I can't do that. Never mind. Because these tags are all together. Okay, so now that one is good, and I can just go through and I can change the type for all of them. And then I can go ahead and print it out and cut them out. All right, so let me show you how I did my photos. So I'm going to come down here to Lightroom, and I always do my collages in Lightroom. And these are the photos that I decided to use for, you know, some of those little tags of things that I had been learning in the last month or so. And I'm going to come over here to print. So what you want to do is you want to pick out the 5 photos that you want and then come over to print. And because I've already done this, I already have had this set up, but let me come down here to page setup so I can show you what I've done. I'm using my Epson PM400, and the size of my print is going to be a 4x6. So I'm going to, and I want it to be portrait. So I'm clicking OK. You could definitely do landscape too, but I'm just going to do portrait. Click OK. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to have 1 row and I want to have 2 columns here. Okay, so that kind of adjusted those things there. And that's because I have to move this margin all the way so that I can get access to the cell size. So make sure all the margins are all at 0. And that means your printer is probably going to need to be set at borderless. If your printer does not print borderless, these will not be 0. Let's see. Let me go to page setup. And if I go to the properties of my printer, you can see that I've got borderless checked. And if I uncheck borderless and click OK, I want you to see how these adjust right here because there's now going to be a border. So I'm going to come back up here to page setup, click on properties, hit borderless and click OK and OK. And now you can see they haven't changed, but I can actually change them. They will go to 0 now. So now that I've got my 1 row, 2 columns, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I want these photos to be a 4x2. So I know if this is a 4x6 that by doing 2 columns, they can be 2 inches each, which is what I want. 4 by 2 inches is what I meant to say. And then because it's a 4x6, I just need 1 row of them. So this does not really matter, the cell spacing, because, well, I'll show you. This will adjust as I adjust the cell size. So I want the photos to be a 4x2. And if I max it all the way out, you can see that this cell spacing moves. And let me show you this by selecting all of the photos. By selecting all the photos, you can see if I'm adjusting this cell spacing here, it's going to adjust the spacing in between the photos. But then again, it adjusts my cell size so my photo can no longer print at 2 inches. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to bring that down. So now I can have a 4x2. And I'm just going to scroll through with this arrow so you can see all the photos that I'm choosing. And you can come over and you can adjust them if you want to adjust them so you're in the center. One thing that I would say to keep in mind, because you're printing borderless, your photo is actually going to, the printer is going to enlarge your photo a little bit. So it's already going to crop some of the photo. So if you wanted your face in center, I would say put it off a little bit, because your photo is going to get bigger and it's going to cut right here, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind as you are working with your, what side you put your photos on. If there's like, for instance, like this photo right here, you know, my husband's face is going to get cropped out. So I just want to be careful about, you know, bringing this photo down so that it won't crop so much of his face off. So hopefully that makes sense. So the one thing that I did do here is I went ahead and I printed out, I think I printed out, let's see, these photos separately. And then I did these photos at a different time because I wanted to uncheck this rotate to fit, because I wanted these photos to then be vertically instead of horizontally. Now, if I did that with all of them, you can see that they're all going to, well, this one is going to change, but I didn't want this one to change. I wanted this one to actually print like this, just so we get more of our faces. So anyway, just keep that in mind. Maybe what you would do is you would print these four and then print this one on its own as it's rotating or rotated. So hopefully that is making sense. So I went ahead and let me highlight all of these, went ahead and just sent them to my printer, and I can click OK, and then my printer is going to go ahead and print my 3 prints. So that is how I dealt with the photos. And this is how I do my collages also in Lightroom. All right, so jumping back in with where I was cutting down the base, and as I mentioned in the last portion, that I actually cut this wrong. I just wasn't thinking, and I was looking at the actual file of learning and how it had those edges. And so I was cutting along those edges, forgetting that I wanted it to be the other way. And when I saw it this way, I was like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I could make it work like this. Maybe I could just do a 6x8 and have it be horizontal, and then I could just do one piece of paper, but the photos were just a little too big for that. And I did want to include 5 photos. But if you actually only wanted to do 3 photos, or you wanted to make your photos a little bit smaller, then you could definitely do it like that as well. So that is just an option for you. Or maybe if you wanted to have your photos vertical instead of horizontal, you could have done it with the learning at the top of the page. So that's another option there for you as well. So you can see then I went ahead and I printed another one, and I'm cutting it out so that it's actually going to be vertical and portrait style. So that learning is going to be down the side. And then I'm going to cut one more piece of paper, because this is going to be a 2 spread 6x8 page or layout that's going to go in my in some page protectors instead of, I guess this could have gone on the outside, but I'm pretty sure I'm just going to end up putting it inside the page protectors because they're not bigger. Usually I cut them a little bit bigger. So anyway, so the next thing is just kind of assembling it all together. And I just want to apologize for my filming is not really awesome in this video. And it's because I'm trying to figure out my space. I used to have my camera above me hanging from my ceiling, and I don't have that anymore. We are renting a house, and so I can't really screw up that attachment to the ceiling. So I'm going back to the old way I used to do it with my tripods, and I'm just trying to figure out my space. So anyways, I apologize. I will get it better. I think it was a little too far forward. So next time I film, I will definitely work on that. Although this is the second time I filmed, so we'll see how my other video went. It probably was the same thing where I struggled, and a lot of what I was doing was off screen. So again, I apologize for that, but all you've been missing is just putting adhesive onto each of the photos. Now, I don't know that I mentioned this, I can't remember, but the photo of me and my family is actually smaller. I don't know if you can tell. It actually printed like a 1.82 inches instead of 2 inches. And I don't know, I just hit the wrong thing and I wasn't checking and I didn't realize. And so it is a little bit smaller. I felt like I could really tell. I don't feel like I can really tell now, but it actually made it so all the photos fit on there perfectly, giving me some gutter space. So I thought it worked out really well. Anyway, moving on. So I wanted to attach these tags so they were like free floating on this spread with some twine. And I envisioned that I would do each tag on its own, just kind of like tie it on its own. But as I was, as I put it onto that first tag, I realized, you know what, it would actually be really cool if I tied them all together somehow. So that's just what I decided to do. And I didn't know how it would look and I didn't know if it would work, but I decided to go ahead and give it a try. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm getting my hole punch and I'm punching out the holes for this twine. And what I'm realizing is the twine is very fibrous. I hate this twine. I love the color. I love that it has this rustic feel. But I hate that it's dirty in that like fibers get everywhere. I end up using this a lot in December Daily, and I feel like fibers are like all over my album. I have some cream colored as well, and it drives me nuts. But I do love it, and it's very thin, and it's kind of got this really cool feel that I like, this texture. But yeah, it's very hard in a situation like this where I'm using one of these little hole. It's not a hole punch, just like I guess one of the little pokers, because it doesn't make a very big hole. So I feel like I'm like the whole time like trying to make these holes bigger, and I'm constantly like cutting down the twine so that it's like a fresh piece, so it's not fraying as I'm putting it through the hole. So at any rate, if you're going to do this, I would suggest maybe punching a hole or using some twine that's not so fibrous, that's a little bit easier to go through. I actually did try to use some washi tape to put on the end to make it go through smoother, but it actually didn't really work because the washi tape just ended up being too thick. So anyway, love this twine, hate this twine, but I do love the way that it looked here. So you can see that I'm just going to go through and add the tags on, and then I'm going to end up also tying it as I go. So I do want them each individually tied on, just so the tags stay in place actually where I want them to be. So anyway, and yeah, it's just a process of going through each one. And these are the pieces that end up taking the longest, but it's the pieces that I feel like it's the pieces that I enjoy the most in the layouts are the ones that end up taking the longest time, right? So I'm really glad how it turned out, and I really love how they were all combined. So you'll actually see in just a minute that I'm going to combine both layouts together with the twine. So when I got to this place, I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to clip this off and then start over on the second page, or should I combine them? And I decided to combine them because I thought that it would look really cool. Of course, that doesn't make sense if I'm going to be putting these into page protectors. But how cool would this be if they weren't in a page protector and they were just inside the album, kind of free floating? You would definitely still be able to turn the pages because there would be enough space with the twine. I just thought that would be super, super cool. Now, my plan is to put these into a page protector, so that's not necessarily gonna work, but I was also thinking how cool this would be for a project like Project Life. Now on day 5 from 2019, I did something very similar to this. I'm just realizing it as I'm working on it. I kind of, in a sense, strung up some ornaments, but I used my sewing machine to create like stitching, and I did it that way. But I think that this is actually even cuter to use thread or string to kind of string up your ornaments. You could do it like this, where it goes from one layout to another. You could do it on like a tree. Think about having your ornaments just like this, where it's got some text on it, or your photos could be in the shape of ornaments, or you could combine them so some of the ornaments were decorative, just whatever. Like, I think this is a really great idea, and I'm definitely going to add it to my December daily ideas. Anyways, I am actually done here, but I thought, you saw that I added the date stamp at the bottom, and I thought that I just needed a couple more things. I really love this pop of black that says fresh starts for the win. And then the other chipboard, that yellow heart. I kind of wish it was black, but all I could find was yellow, so I was going with it. Anyway, you guys, that is it for me. If you have any questions, please just let me know. Thank you so much for being here. As always, I really appreciate your support, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye.